we're going to kick off this section by learning about list views. And list views are a super important skill to have for making Android apps. In fact, I'd argue on your phone, you probably don't have an app that doesn't use list views, maybe outside of games. Like they're using almost every single app. So I have more to talk about, but let's go ahead and start a new project so that we can learn how to work with list views. So just go ahead and create a new project. I'm going to call mine list view demo. Okay, and we'll go ahead and start this project. We just want our empty activity, and that all looks good. We'll go ahead and hit finish there. So like I said, what is a list view? A list view is something that just lists out a bunch of items. And I know that sounds kind of dumb, but think about it. In your messaging app, you list out all the contacts that you've recently had messages with. And on the Facebook app, it lists out a bunch of posts. In the Twitter app, it lists out a bunch of tweets. If you go to the settings app inside of Android, it's going to show all the different things that you can get to. So anywhere you see some sort of list that you can scroll through. I mean, think of a music app when you're scrolling through all the songs for a particular artist, or a bunch of albums for a particular artist. Like that is a list view. They're everywhere. So now that we've got our project open, let's go ahead and first move to our design here. So let's move over to our activity main.xml. Essentially what we want to do is we visually want to add our list view first, and then we'll come through and programmatically add some things to that list view. So we have by default that text view that always comes when we start a new project. So let's go ahead and delete that. And then we're going to bring down our list view here, bring it into the project. You can see there it is. Now with this, we've got to go ahead and set some constraints. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit pluses here, and it's going edge to edge, which is exactly what we want there. So we have a list view that's filling up the whole screen here. But you'll notice there's nothing inside of it, right? Like if we go ahead and run this app on the emulator, it's going to essentially be a blank app. And that's because we have to tell the list view about what should go inside of there. So this is where we're going to have to move to our programming to say, hey, we should fill this up with something. And you can see here in the emulator, nothing going on. So in order to do that, let's go ahead and give an ID to our list view so we can be sure to get it in our code. I'm just going to call it my list view, just like that. Now we can come over here to our main activity, and here on the onCreate function, we are going to get access to that list view. So we're first going to reference it. We're going to say we want a list view that we're going to call my list view. Okay, and we're going to use our find view by ID in order to get this, and we're just going to go ahead and do our classic r.id and then this is where we'll start typing my list view, and you should have an autocomplete here if everything worked out correctly. Okay. Almost forgot our semicolon there. So once you have that in place, then we want to start filling up this list view with some items. So as an example, let's go ahead and have a list view that shows all the family members in your particular family. So go ahead, hit pause on the video now. I want you to create an array that contains the name of your family members. So a little mid-lecture challenge for you here. Make an array that contains your family member's name. Okay, hit pause, do that now. All right, so I just wanted you to make an array. What I ended up doing was I said array list, and I want this to be of type string because it's going to hold a bunch of strings of our family members' names. And I'm going to call this my family, and I'm going to have this be equal to a new array list of type string. And can't forget that semicolon, okay? So once I had my family here, just went ahead and added some family members. So I said, dot add, and I added, for example, myself, Nick. Then we'll go ahead in here. Let's add some other family members. We'll do Sarah. In my family, let's go ahead and also add someone else. Let's add John. And then lastly, let's go ahead and add the family dog. So we're going to say, let's add our family dog, Fido. And look at that. We now have an array complete, ready to use. Now, what's awesome about arrays and list views is they just work perfectly together, right? So here, literally in the name array list, right, where arrays list out things in a particular particular order. List views are really great at showing array lists. So it's going to be really awesome to sort of marry these two things now. So how do we get the information from this array inside of this list? Let's do that now. So the bridge that's going to connect this array my family to this list view called my list view is something called an array adapter. And to think of an array adapter as basically taking the information from an array and filling it inside of a list view. So you're going to see a little bit more as it works as I type this out, but just remember the array is sort of the bridge between the data and actually getting things to show up inside of a list view. So what we're going to do is we're first going to create a new array adapter. So just type out capital array adapter, and it's going to ask you, what type this is going to be, and we're working with strings, so we're going to do a string array adapter, and let's go ahead and give it a name. I know this is not very original, but I'm just going to call it array adapter, and then what we're going to do is we're going to set this equal to a new capital array adapter of type string. Good. And you can see in order to initialize one of these, there's a couple of different options that we could put in here, and I'm trying to get that list to show up again, but the first thing that we need to pass inside of there, in fact I'm just going to delete this because I really want you to be able to see what's in there. New array adapter of strings. There we go. So the first thing that we got to pass through is the context, right? And we've done that before. That's just going to be this. So we'll just go ahead and type this. Then the next thing that it's looking for is it's looking out for a layout saying, how should I display this information? And the reason for this is because list views can show things a lot of different ways. You'll, notice sometimes in a list view that, there's images involved. Maybe it's just text. Maybe it's a combination of the two. There's lots of different options. So for this, let's go ahead and, put our comma there. To specify the layout that we want, we're going to type lowercase android, dot capital R dot layout dot, and there's all sorts of different options here. So this can be a place where you can go experiment if you want to go see what more of these things are like. But we're going to use simple list item 1, which basically allows you to display a string with a label. This is kind of the simplest version of having a list item shown inside of a list view. So we're going to go ahead and choose that. So that's the second parameter that we're passing in here. And then for the last one, it has to have some information. So for example, it could be some sort of list, array, whatever it is. And in our case, that's, my family. So we're just going to go ahead and type my family there, and we're going to pass it through. So what have we done with this array adapter? We said, hey, we want you to take my family, this array, and turn it into this simple list item type of view inside of a list view. Now, because we've created this array adapter still doesn't know about the list view. It only knows about the array and how it's supposed to display it. So in our next step, we have to set this array adapter to the list view that we have. So we're going to take my list view, and then we're going to say dot set adapter, and this is where we pass in our array adapter, just like that. And by doing that, now this list view knows, okay, I'm going to use this array adapter in order to convert everything, and it should be all sunshine and rainbows from here on out. So let's go ahead and hit run, check what this looks like on our emulator here. Should be quite exciting. Okay, there it comes. And once this opens up, look at that. We have got this nice list view showing up. Here's all the names there. You can, tap on these. You see that cool little animation. We can't really scroll through any of it because there's not enough items to scroll. If we did have enough in here, you would see that. In fact, if, you just go ahead and, I want to properly copy this, but let's copy this code, and I'm going to paste it down a ton of times so we can see what happens here. But let's go ahead and run this one more time on the emulator. This is the fun part of programming, right? You can do sort of ridiculous things like this in a couple of seconds and see what happens. And look at that. Now you can do a click drag and sort of see all these different items that's with the list view. So hopefully you've seen some of the magic of a list view in that you can take an array, add as many things as you want to it, and because this array adapter just has to know about the array, it's not like you have to manually say, okay, go, show this thing this way. No, it just sort of handles it. As big or as small as your array is, your list view is going to show it properly as long as you have an array adapter. So very cool how all of that works out. All right. But you do notice, so if, for example, you tap on one of these names, we get this little animation to run. So you see some code that's being run whenever that happens. But, what if we want to run our own code to say, when someone taps on a name, maybe we want to log that name or something like that? Well, let me show you how I can do that. And I'm going to come back from our sort of ridiculous example here. We only need our 4 family members. So after we've done setting the adapter and all that good stuff, we want to set an on-click listener for our list view. So we're going to type out my list view dot, and this is where we're going to set on item click listener. There we go. So now we have to go ahead and create the actual listener. So we're going to say new adapter view. Okay, dot on item click listener, and Android Studio handles the rest for us. So you might be interested to say, okay, on item click, and we're getting all these different parameters here, like what are these things? So the first one is the adapter view, and this is basically the list view that we had coming through, although the reason it's called an adapter view and it's got this question mark here is because there's different types of collections that you can have. There's like a grid view and stuff like that, so they kind of leave that ambiguous by purpose, but we could, if we wanted to, take something like this and say, adapter view dot set visibility. Here we go here. Oh, I can't type correctly. There we go. Set visibility, and we could do something like, view.gone, something like that. And that would literally, what would happen here is someone clicks on an item, it would have the whole thing disappear. So that's one thing that you could do, but I'm just kind of showing you that's how that works there. The view is the actual individual item that has been clicked on. So for example, if I clicked on John, it would be just this John thing here, whereas adapter view is the entire list view there. The int is what item it is in the list. So for example, this is counted the same way as an array. So this is like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, just all the way through. And then the long, this can be connected with sort of the ID of what's going on. And usually this is the same as the int, but I really wouldn't work with that too much. So anyways, what I want you to do as a challenge is I want you to be able to log out someone's name when they are clicked on. Okay, so someone, clicks on one of these names like John, Nick, Fido, whatever it is. I want that name to be logged out whenever that happens. So go ahead, hit pause now. All right, so hopefully that little challenge went all right for you. Basically what I wanted you to do was I wanted you to log whenever someone had tapped on something. So you might say something like person selected, right? And then you have to provide then what the person's name that was selected. So you might be wondering, how do you do this? Well, first we get reference to the array, which is my family, right? So inside of here, we're going to say my family, and then we're going to do .get, right, to pull something out of this array. And then we're going to pass in this int I. So by passing in I, this basically says, okay, if they tap the thing at the 0 position, we want to go get the 0 thing from the array. If they did it at the 1, the 2, whatever, that's going to work through. So let's go ahead and run this and see if this is working for us. Again, we should have we should be able to log out the person's name whenever they select somebody. So there's our 4 names. Let's say I go ahead and click on Sarah here. Boom! Look at that. Person selected, Sarah. I tap on John. John shows up. Fido. Sarah again. Nick. Oh, isn't this cool? So, I mean, in this short amount of time, we have figured out how to list a bunch of items from an array and also run some code when someone has clicked on one of them and get access to the array item that is being displayed in that item cell. Just some really awesome stuff that we've learned so far here. All right, so to really cement in and make sure that you're understanding this concept, which is so important, because like I said, now that you know what a list view is, like, don't you see this inside of almost every single app on your phone? Like, at some point, an app's got to list out a bunch of information, and ultimately, they use list views so much. So I really want to make sure that you've got this, so I've got a challenge for you. I want you to delete everything that we have so far. So, in fact, just go ahead, select all of this. Go ahead and delete it. And I even want you to go here to display, delete that as well, the list view that you have, because I want you to, from scratch, create a list view listing the name of your friends instead of your family this time. Instead of making it so that when someone taps on one of these that you're logging out the information, I want you to display a little toast message. Remember when we covered that? So that's sort of the difference here, a little bit of a spin on that. But I really want you to do this on your own. Remember, the real learning takes place when you're struggling through and doing things on your own. So don't just go ahead and move forward and watch me do it. I want you to hit pause, figure this out on your own. I believe in you. You can do it. Okay. So list out your friends. Make it so when you tap on one, it shows a little toast of their name. All right. Go ahead, hit pause now. All right, so if you're watching this, I assume you've done the challenge. Please do not move forward till you've completed the challenge here. Maybe you got to Google some stuff, rewatch things, whatever it is. I want you to get through a little bit of that struggle here. But let me show you how I would accomplish this, okay? So first thing that we got to do is we visually got to bring in a list view. So under containers here, we're going to go to our list view and drag and drop this guy out, and I'm going to show you a little bit different this time. So by default here, by dragging it here, there's going to be a little bit of margin here. So when I hit these plus automatically, there's a little bit 8-point separation on each side. So you can decide how you want to handle that. Last time, remember, we did 0, so it filled up the entire screen. I'm just going to show you some alternate options that you can use. So with this list view, we got to give it some sort of ID. So if we want to, since we're working with friends, we could call this the friend list view for our ID. That's definitely a possibility. So we'll go ahead and go back to our main activity here. So we want to get access to that list view. So we'll say capital list view, and we're going to call this the friends list view. And we're going to go ahead and do our classic find view by ID. And we'll do capital R.ID friend list view, just like that. So now we have access to the list view. Next thing that we need to do is make an array of our friends. Now you could have handled this a lot of different ways. I'm going to show you a little bit of a special way that you can use array list to kind of do it all in one big line rather than having, the add, and it just takes up a bunch of space here in Android Studio. But what we're going to do is we're going to say final array list. Okay, and we want this to be an array list of strings. So we'll go ahead and plop that in there. And we're just going to call this my friends, right? Real original from my family, right? But then what we're going to do here is we're going to say, yes, we want to create a new array list, and this should be a bunch of strings. And then inside of here, what we're going to do is specify that this should come through as a list. And then what we're going to do is put some parentheses inside of here. And we are just going to start listing out some people. So for example, I might say Mark, and then, I might say Jane, another friend that we've got here. Let's do Susie, and then our very last one, Jan. Okay, so I've got all my friends here. Let me go ahead and do that ending semicolon there. All right, so after we've created all of our friends, right, the next step for us is that we have to create the array adapter, and that's the thing that kind of converts it before we move forward. So you may have noticed I have a bit of an error here, and that's because this as list didn't automatically import. So we want to do our import static method java.util arrays.asList so that we can have that functionality. Okay, so that's going to go ahead and get rid of our error for us. So now that we have the array, we have the list view. Remember, what is it that connects these two things? It's the array adapter. So let's go ahead and make a new array adapter. And this is going to be working with strings. So we'll just go ahead and put string in there. And we'll call this our classic name, array adapter. And we'll say this is equal to a new capital array adapter of strings. And then we have to pass in this for our context. And then again, we want to get the layout that we want. So lowercase android dot capital R dot layout dot, and this is where you get all your cool options. And look, since we recently used simple list item 1, it's nice up at the top for us. And then after that, we have to pass it the array. So in this case, it's going to be my friends. All right, we'll put our ending semicolon there. So now we have the array adapter that knows, how it's supposed to display it, and it knows the array, but we've got to connect that to the list view. So we're going to take our friends list view, and we're going to say, let's set the adapter equal to our array adapter that we just created. So I'll just type in array adapter there, and boom. If we go ahead and run this, we should see all of our friends showing up inside of the app. So let's go ahead and check this out. Come on, emulator, we believe in you. Hope you like my little jingles while we're waiting for the emulator here. And boom, look at that. We got our nice names listed out. Okay. So once that's in place, remember we want to make it so that if someone taps on one of these names or clicks, that we can actually show a little toast message about that. So let's get back to our friends list view. Okay. And we want to do a set on item click listener. So we're going to say new adapter view on item click listener, right? This is where we get all that cool information. And now we want to go ahead and use the toast functionality that we covered earlier in order to do this. So if you don't remember, to make a toast, we do capital toast, and we're going to say .make text. And inside of here, we're going to pass in a couple of things. So the first one is we got to get the application context. So we're going to say get application context, comma. The next thing that we're looking for is the actual message. So we're going to put together two strings to make it friendly. We're going to say hello to our friend. So we're going to say hello space, and then we're going to add onto it. And this is where we've got to go grab the friend from the friend list. So we're going to say my friends.get. And then remember, we want to pass in this int I, which says, where it is that we're at in the list view. Okay, and then the last thing that we have to pass in for a toast is how long that toast message should appear. So we're going to say toast.length, and you can choose whether it's going to be short or long, but let's go ahead and go with long for this one. And we've got to make sure after all of this that we do a dot show with our semicolon there. Okay, so this should be enough to complete everything that we've got. Let's go ahead and hit run here and see what this puppy looks like. So shout out to you for doing all of this. Let's see, moment of truth here. I tap on Susie. Hello, Susie. I tap on Jan. We had to wait for Susie to go away. Hello, Jan. Maybe we should have done a short toast message. I'm not sure, but we tap on Mark. Hello, Mark. Okay. So congratulations on getting the first sort of basics of a list view down. I promise we are going to be working with list views a ton hereafter. So don't worry if you're thinking like, I kind of get the idea of it, but I'm not 100%. Don't worry. You're going to get lots and lots of practice in this course. So congratulations on getting this all worked out, but we got more to learn. Let's keep moving.